Thanks so much for being with us. Tonight is the first presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump.
And it may be the only debate this election cycle.
New at 6, our State Capitol Bureau Chief Vanessa Kelsson joins us now with what to listen for in the debate.
To prep for tonight's presidential debate in Philadelphia, I caught up with some local experts about what a successful night should look like.
I've been debating for 3 years so far.
I'm 13.
This is going to be my second year.
Ahead of the first Harris-Trump debate.
Yeah, I'll be watching very excitedly.
These middle school speech and debate competitors share their advice for the candidates.
Be honest.
One of the things we learn about first when you come to debate is make sure that you're only attacking their argument and not them as a person, because that would reflect poorly on your team as a whole.
Both candidates should act in good faith. They should both try to put together good, solid arguments with good evidence, good reasoning.
Outlining what they hope to hear during the 90-minute matchup.
I personally want to see clear policy set, because so far in this presidential race, it's a lot about character.
Meanwhile, at Val Phillips High School in Madison,
I'll start time now.
these varsity debaters share advice for the viewers at home.
I think it's important to have an open mind for the debate, regardless of what your political standpoint is before watching it.
So who wins the debate?
Whoever can best make their case while avoiding the inflammatory rhetoric. I think voters are sick of that.
As a former high school speech and debate competitor myself, I'll also be watching this historic and high-stakes debate tonight. It's set to begin at 8 p.m. Central. For now, live in Madison, I'm Vanessa Kelsson.